It's time for the Red Zone Warriors Fantasy Football Show with Rob the Commish Smith, Jim the Jimmer Kiernan, and Jay Cushman Corson. Let's talk some fantasy football, boys.
Andy Dalton. This is an interesting one. I mean, we kind of mentioned the Red Rocket a little bit earlier. I mean, God, what do you do with Andy Dalton? I mean, this guy just seemingly. I mean, we all know he's been in the league for a while. Comes out of nowhere, and he's like a top 5, top 6 quarterback, depending on your scoring system, and no one saw coming. And then that's great and all, but do you trust it? What do you do with him next year? How confident do you feel as him being your QB1? So, Jay, after doing all the research that I know you did on Andy Dalton, and I know you played him against me in the finals last season, and he scored you like 30-something points, and it was an amazing play on your point, even though you still lost. What do you think about? Sorry. What do you think about the Red Rocket, and would you feel comfortable? I mean, his ADP is 17th, so clearly he has great value if you feel like he can outproduce that going in the 12th round.
Absolutely. I have him as 7th overall. Look, this guy finished 5th overall last season in our league, and everybody was questioning whether he had value as a fantasy starter all season long. Don't be that guy this year. The Red Rocket threw for 33 touchdowns. He had a 2 on the ground last year. That was good. That was good for third most in the league, and he completed 62% of his passes for 4,300 yards. I mean, the guy's accurate. He doesn't throw a ton of picks. Giovanni Bernard is taking an increasing role in this offense this year, which seems very likely. He should see a ton more receptions. His dynamic skill set as a receiver is only going to inflate Dalton's numbers this year. So, he's going to be a freaking great quarterback. So if you can get him at a reasonable price, which, I'm looking at ADPs going in the 13th round, I mean, yeah, I would definitely feel comfortable waiting on a quarterback, taking Dalton late, and maybe backing him up with somebody. But I think he's going to be a top 5. It's going to happen. Definitely top 10 though. But you guys, I know you have him way down the list. So let's hear why I'm a moron.
I'll start real quick by saying Jay Gruden's gone. I don't doubt what you're saying, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. My only thing is I got to see what their offense is going to do here before I can really trust and draft him at 7th. I mean, so that's just the big difference I have there. That's why I'm taking a very pessimistic approach. He's someone I think you could pick up the waivers, quite frankly.
Andy Dalton, what to do with you? Going into it, what is he going into his? Was it 4th year, Jay, or 5th year? Yeah.
4th year.
4th year. He's never finished inside the top 12 prior to last year. I believe, if the numbers that I looked up are accurate. So I see it more as an aberration than anything. They do have a new offensive coordinator there, as the Jimmer mentioned. I think they're going to run the ball more, frankly. I mean, that's what this guy brings to the table. They drafted Hill as a rookie. I think him and Gio are going to run the crap out of the ball. Yes, they have A.J. Green. They have options there. But it's just this guy, I mean, to come from where he went to do what he did last year, you can't assume that's going to happen again. And it's one of those guys where might he do it? Absolutely, I guess. But the chances are, history says, numbers say, statistics say that won't happen again. And I'm surely not comfortable with drafting him, as a QB1, especially, within a top 7 pick as you have him. For me, and what I do quite a bit actually in my fantasy drafting strategy is I'll like to stream quarterbacks. I think Andy Dalton is a fantastic guy to pick up in later rounds. I mean, good Lord, current ADP right now in Fantasy Football Calculator has him going at the beginning of the 12th round. I mean, we're thinking about. I mean, defenses would have gone by then. At least Seattle would have probably in all likelihood. So, if you're going to stream quarterbacks and you can grab a Jay Cutler, you can grab an Andy Dalton. I think that's great. You play matchups with him. But all in all, just from his history and the years that he's been in the league, I can't trust him. But I would definitely feel comfortable streaming him and sleep pretty well at night doing that. So.
Yeah, to clarify, I'm not saying I would draft him in the seventh overall. I would take him late and reap the benefits at the end of the season.
Well, and just to clarify for the audience, that's a great point. I mean, basically, Jay's saying, he thinks he's going to, at the end of 2014, he's going to produce the seventh position as far as fantasy point numbers, which makes him even more of a value for Jay than it would be for me, because I don't value him that high. But if he produces top 7 and Jay can get him in the 12th, that is just amazing value, and chances are he's going to do very well in the league. That's just how that works. So, all right, so we're going to move on to another very polarizing guy, which is interesting because this guy has never been polarizing. I mean, Cam Newton has always been a top 5 guy. It was a no-brainer. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter who he throws the ball to. It doesn't matter which way the wind is blowing, where he's playing, what his running back situation is, who his wide receivers are. He runs the ball. He runs in touchdowns. He ends up as top 5, even if he's starts off slow like he has done in previous years. He ends up kicking ass the second half of the season, and he ends up top 5. That's just what he does. Jimmer has him as a possible keeper this year. I think he is going to keep him. But his ADP, instead of being top 5, which it has been since his sophomore season, is now 10. He's fallen big time. You can get the guy clearly at the end of the 7th round, which to some seems ridiculous and others seems right on the mark. So, Jim, as a keeper of him, as someone you've had years in the past, what do you think about his production, and are you a believer that he's going to fall off the map like the majority of these so-called experts think?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's face it, Super Scam Cam, the Newton man, let me just put this out there right now. He actually just threw a pass to me on his nationwide Find a Wide Receiver tour. He has no one to throw to. So let's get the obvious thing out of the way. I mean, Steve is gone. I mean, any other wide receiver he had there is gone. But quite frankly, were any of them that good? You kind of got to start thinking about that. We'll talk about Greg Olsen in a minute here. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I think that guy is going to have a huge year just because of what everything's going on. The rookie, I talked about him a week or two ago, Calvin Benjamin. I think that guy has serious upside, and I think that's a lot of potential for Cam to still perform. I think they have 14 running backs or 17 running backs, and I think a lot of them are going to catch a lot of balls this year, which is something different. But what does this really mean for his run production during those read option plays? I think he's going to be running a lot more rather than passing while scrambling. He apparently is bonding with Calvin, like I mentioned. And again, like, that guy is big. I mean, he's a huge target. And Cam's not exactly the most accurate passer, but he definitely can get the ball in the region. And that was something that Steve excelled at, was just catching the ball. Making the play to get to it, and I think that's something that Kelvin also has at him. So I think we're going to see a lot of hybrid roles coming out of the running backs. I think you're going to see a guy like John Barner out of Oregon. Yes, I'm going there. Jonathan Stewart's from Oregon too. Anyways. I think you're going to see actually the comeback of the Z-back in this offense because, quite frankly, they have to do something, and I think that's what will be kind of a trick there. So good news is for dynasty owners is that, hey, the guy doesn't get hurt. I mean, the guy's a rock of consistency when it comes to that, which is kind of scary to say about him, but he doesn't get hurt. He just keeps putting up numbers no matter what happens, no matter what the situation is. He's truly and without doubt a warrior competitor. I mean, the guy, no matter what, finds a way to win. I got to be honest, having him on my team last year, I wasn't ever expecting a 40-point game from him, fantasy points wise, where you just hope you have one crazy game. He just kept putting up 20s, just like it was no big deal. And I mean, it made no sense either because, literally he'd have 200, passing yards, maybe 80 yards rushing, and probably 2 TDs, and he's just a rock of consistency. Yeah. I think he's going to do what it takes to keep winning, and so that's why, in my opinion, he's still a top 10 guy. I don't know if he's a top 5 guy like he has been in the last few years, but he's still definitely a top 10 guy in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I'll jump in here, Jay, and let you have the last word on Cam. So Cam had the best completed percentage that he's had in his career last year. Let's start with the positives. Granted, he wasn't known for his accuracy in throwing the ball. Another reason why I like the fact that they got Benjamin, because he's a huge guy and he can throw it 6 feet in either direction of him and he can still catch the ball because he's not known as the most accurate guy. But regardless, he's improved in that category as a quarterback. And again, last year, how did he finish in quarterback rankings? He finished fifth because he always finishes fifth or better. Now, let's go to the negatives. Negatives. His passing yards are both down. His rushing TDs down. So rushing yards, passing yards, rushing TDs are down his 3 straight years in a row. That's not great. That doesn't give me warm fuzzies. That's why I have him ranked at 10. It's not because of this whole wide receiver debacle, which I think people are making way too much of. It's because those 3 categories are down. The guy is a winner. Obviously, he's been doing it since college. Yes, he's healthy. He doesn't miss a game because he's so big and huge. I don't think he can be hurt if he tried. And people, they keep bringing up this he's got no wide receivers to throw to. Oh, dear God, he lost Steve Smith. What is he going to do? Good Lord, people, it's Steve freaking Smith. He's been in the league for like 17 years. Steve Smith's numbers last year were the worst that they've been probably in his entire career. He's not losing Josh Gordon. He's not losing Calvin Johnson. He lost Steve Smith. It's not that big of a deal. Last year, this was his receiving core. Steve Smith, Ted Ginn, Brandon LaFell. Not exactly world beaters. Who does he have this year? He's got Jericho Cotchery, Jason Avant, Kelvin Benjamin, the healthy Greg Olsen. Is one better than the other? I would suggest that maybe this year might be better than last year. So I'm not buying all this wide receiver stuff. Oh, my God, he's got no one to throw to, but he's going to throw it up to himself and run under and catch the ball like we see on YouTube. No, I really don't think that's the issue. The reason I have him down, again, is because his rushing numbers have been down, passing numbers have been down, even though he's been more accurate, and his rushing touchdowns have been down. So I don't really know what to do with Cam Newton, to be honest with the listeners here. I have brought him down from where I would have had him in previous years. Maybe I'm being influenced by the likes of other folks talking about him, but I still think he's a top 10 guy, and I am not getting caught up in all this wide receiver and lack thereof controversy because he's never had a good wide receiver core.
Yeah, you can say that. You can have him. I have him outside the top 15, which may be a little low, but I don't think he's going to be top 10. He doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to. He just doesn't. It's not going to be a good year for Cam Newton. You got him in dynasty leagues, hold on to him. I'm sure they'll fix the problem there. But I just don't see it. But anyway, we're going to move on. And this is a guy I don't even really want to talk about, and not because I have anything personal against him, but just because he plays for the Buccaneers. Jay Cutler. His ADP is the 14th overall quarterback. Rob, you have him at 11th. How dare you? I feel like I'm being betrayed by my friend that you actually have this guy above his ADP. Placate me and at least give me a good reason for it.
Yes, another polarizing figure, Jay Cutler. What do you do with a guy who's got the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL? Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey. Top 3, top 4 running back in the NFL, Matt Forte. He's got to be up there. That opens things up for everybody. You're right. He's going as 14, quarterback off the board. You get him in the 10th round. I've got him at 11th, and it's just because the freaking quarterbacks are so deep. I just don't know where to put these guys. There's just so much good talent. That's where I have him. But let's look at his numbers. So last year, he played 10 games, and that's the problem with Cutler. Is he gets hurt. That's just been his history of his career. But last year in the 10 games that he did play with the frowny face that he always plays with, which is annoying to me, he had over 2,600 yards. He had a completion percentage of over 63%, which puts him, it's kind of middle of the road. 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 118 rushing yards, which actually surprised me a little bit. That's probably because his offensive line wasn't, tremendous. But But if you project, this is the big thing going around. If you guys listen to XM Sirius Radio, which I listen to a lot of podcasts, what you've probably heard, as I have, is that if you put Cutler's numbers combined with the journeyman McCown's numbers over 16 games last season, obviously McCown is not with the Bears anymore. He's over at Tampa Bay. Those two guys would have finished third in fantasy points as quarterback. That's just a fact. That's what the numbers bear out, and that's, again, because they have Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, Matt Forte, Martellus Bennett. But I don't give a crap about McCown because we're talking about Jay Cutler and what he's going to do. So let's project Jay Cutler's numbers out from the 10 games he did play to 16 games. I know that's hard to do. That's sketchy because he could have shit the bed the last 5 games for whatever reason and sucked, and so these numbers could potentially mean nothing. But if you do project them out, as we do, Cutler would have finished 6th in the NFL as quarterbacks in the standard quarterback scoring for fantasy football. That's number 6. The problem is he doesn't play 16 games, okay? So that's the biggest concern, is about durability. He had both a growing problem, not from a height perspective, but that's down in his man region. He had ankle issues. He hasn't played 16 games since, wait for it, 2009. Yes, 2009 is the last time he actually played a full 16
Was that
games.
when he was with the Broncos?
I mean, that's so long ago.
I think it was the contract year, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. So he did. Now, this is the upside. He did sign a big deal. They signed him to a big deal this offseason. They got rid of their journeyman McCown, who lit the crap up out of the freaking football when he did get in there for those 6 games that he played. And they didn't do much in the draft for him. So he's clearly the number 1 starter. They're going into the 2nd year of Mark Trestman's offense. And for those of you who don't, follow this to the extent that us degenerates do, Mark Trestman is known as one of the best offensive masterminds in the game. So they're going into their 2nd year of this with some of the best weapons in the league. That is the upside, the positives of Jay Cutler. I see him at the end of the season at 4,100. This is kind of factoring in the fact that I don't think he's going to play full 16 games, but 4,100 passing yards, 30 touchdowns. The guy does throw interceptions. We know that. I've got him at 15 interceptions. So I've got him at 11, and I've got him at 11 again because I don't think he's going to play 16 games. I think Cutler is probably the premier target for somebody who decides to wait and stream quarterbacks, which I and the rest of us, I believe, is the way to go in fantasy football in the modern era. You can get him in the 10th round. You draft him. You draft the Red Rocket, somebody else later. You stream them based on matchups because when Cutler does play, he's going to give you elite fantasy numbers. And once he pulls his groin and tweaks his ankle again and he pouts off the field like he does, then you can plug somebody else in and you can still do very well in your fantasy leagues.
Yeah, 2 words to describe Jay Cutler: whiny bitch. I don't like the guy. He's got to face a Lions defensive line that pretty much tries to kill him every time they see him, twice a year. I don't think he's going to last 16 games. You're right. Definitely worth a stream, like you said, but I've got him down at 14th. I don't see him being much of a factor once he gets injured. So Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey are going to have to catch passes from whoever the backup there is. And that's all there is to it. So,
Yeah.
no Jay.
Jay, I'm exactly with you. I mean, injury is the primary concern. Quite frankly, the dude's on his back a lot, and I will keep harping on this. Their offensive line is not good.
Yeah. Well, guys, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't think he's going to last 16 games either, but the stats bear themselves out. He would have finished 6th on his own. He would have finished 3rd if you combine the numbers. So when he is playing, because of his weapons and the situation that he is in with Mark Trestman, he's a clear starter when he's on the field and playing, which he will be doing at least the first part of the season until the Ndamukong Suh rips out his larynx and feeds it to him. So I'm not sure what week that's going to happen, so you might want to look that up. So we're going to move on to a guy I frankly had nothing personal against Mr. Tom Brady until last year. I mean, we can all admit it. The guy is, he's a stud. He's a Hall of Famer. He's got a beautiful wife. I would question his attire at times, especially during the Kentucky Derby. I've got nothing personal against him. Last year, we'll get into this later. But so Jimmer, you're tasked with talking about Tom Brady. His ADP is 7th. People aren't really sure what to do about him. His name recognition is what it is, and it's tremendous. But he's now ADP 7. He's going in the very end of the 6th round in a 12-man league. You've got him at 8th, just below his current ADP. He's coming off one of the worst seasons he's ever had outside of the year that he tore his ACL in Game 1 like 5 years ago or whatever it was. So what do you think about Tom, and are you comfortable drafting him as I unfortunately did last year, or are you staying away?
Let's take care of a few things first here. He's old, all right. Tom, I don't know if he's going to make it through the full season. ESPN just ran a thing, and they officially said that he is out of the elite category. And I'm honestly kind of depressed talking about him. But seriously, it's kind of getting boring. But anyways, let's talk about a few things. One, those wide receivers, they only can get better, quite frankly. I mean, there's no way they're going to drop 45 or 55 balls, whatever they did. It was ridiculous. Gronk is back until Gronk gets hurt, which is just a matter of time. I'm sure he's injured right now, in a Las Vegas, pool party. His offensive line, though, and like I said, I keep harping on this, it's 8 deep. 8-man rotation deep. Like, that's huge. And these guys are all veterans. We're talking probably the best offensive unit in the game, all right? Like, that's impressive. There's 4 teams that we could talk about year in, year out, and this is probably a whole nother discussion, but I'll say it anyways. There's 4 teams right now that are just automatic Super Bowl contenders, and that's San Francisco, Seattle, Broncos, and the Patriots. And why are the Patriots a factor? Because they have Tom motherfucking Brady, all right? All right, Tom Ugg Boots Brady. We'll say that. I got it out there. So I'm officially, spoiler alert, I'm officially putting him on my IR watch list because I think he could get hurt this year. But the reason why I have him so high is because it's Tom Brady, man. Like, he just keeps doing what he does, and it doesn't make sense, and he just keeps going through. Like, yes, last year was rough, but I just, something inside of me says, dude, the guy's going to end up top 10 again. And I have no idea how to explain it. I have no idea why, but it's just one of those things where he's the unicorn of fantasy football, in my opinion.
Yeah, Tom Brady, I have him at 7th because it's Tom Brady. I mean, he had a down year last year. Like him from his wide receiver, dropped a shit ton of balls. I think they're going to get better. Hopefully Gronk stays healthy longer this year. I just got to say, though, I remember you, Rob, you thought that was the pick of the draft, and you got him. I'm so damn excited. I thought you were going to whip it out and start roster baiting right there in the restaurant bar thing we were at in Vegas. I thought we were going to get arrested. I mean, there was a cop there. I believe he had Jim in handcuffs at one point.
That did happen.
So, yeah, dude, Tom Brady is going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. Julian Edelman is going to be his little helper, I think. I hope. I want Julian Edelman back again this year.
Yes, let me just say, I have no shame for drafting Tom Brady last year in the 7th round whatsoever. It was a fantastic pick. I would have done it.
No, it wasn't.
It absolutely was, and I would have done it again and again in those circumstances. I thought it was at the time. At the time, I think it was the pick of the draft. I was roster baiting. You guys just didn't notice because I was wearing jeans or sweatpants or whatever the case. This is the deal, though. Tom Brady, wide receiver, still a big issue. Okay, Edelman is the only one who can catch the ball, and that little bastard catches the ball like 50 times a game.
Yeah, it's freaking
so
awesome.
That's good. Amendola got a hangnail. He's already out for the season. We know that. Okay.
You guys were so big on him last year, for the record, and I was like, absolutely not. I am not touching him.
Well, Gronk is currently hurt, Jimmer. He has had literally like 8 surgeries since his career. He had a wrist like twice. He had a back, which he's had, I think, twice. He's coming off ACL, MCL, RCL, KCL, and MCL.
And pool partyitis.
Pool partyitis. You got hepatitis in the pool. That's clear.
Cool.
So he's always an issue. You know, is he going to be on the pup list going in the season? I don't know. Probably he was last year. I traded for him with Cushman. I couldn't play him for 6 weeks because of it. He's always a problem and an issue. When he's on the field, he's incredible, but he's off the field a lot. So this is the thing with Brady. Lowest completage percentage in yards per attempt for him was last year since 2004 is when that occurred. That's how bad it was last year. And yes, a lot of that is because of his wide receiver issues and the fact that Gronk is rarely on the field. You know, all the numbers went the wrong way. He finished as the 16th quarterback in our league, and because of how he screwed me, I want nothing to do with him. He is getting older. He does have a great offensive line. That's fine. Aaron Dobson, just for those, who actually might be listening here live, Aaron Dobson is someone to target. He's a late-round guy. You probably get him in the 15th round. I think he will make an impact and do better than he did last year. But I am staying far and away from Tom Brady. I have him at 13 because I have a personal vendetta, just like clearly Jimmer has on RG3. But his peak has passed. He's on the downside of his career, and I am frankly staying away from him, and that's just the bottom line. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for our quarterbacks and tight ends for this podcast. On our next show, we are actually working to put together a 10 to 12 man or woman, for that matter, mock draft, hopefully sometime next Thursday. We're going to have a good group of fantasy football degenerates such as ourselves to do a live on the air and discuss our picks as we pick them, our rationale and mentality about why we picked a guy where and what our thinking process is for doing so. So I don't know about you guys, but when I listen to podcasts, that's one of the favorite things I listen to is mock drafts and listening to why these guys do what they do. So go ahead and look out for that. We'll definitely keep you posted via Twitter for when that is going to be done. You can watch it live on YouTube and then when we're going to be releasing that. But again, we're hoping to do that this coming Thursday. In the meantime, go to redzonewarriors.com. You can watch all of our previous episodes. You can see our rankings. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Tweet us your fantasy football questions at RedZoneWarriors. So for the Cushman, the Jimmer, I am Rob Smith. And remember, if you are taking a fantasy football season off, then you are already losing. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
I'm drafting QBs in the first 3 rounds.